Hi grade 10s, happy Friday. So today we are going to be looking at velocity. We talked about speed last class and today we're going to be looking at velocity. So velocity is described as the rate at which an object changes its position. Notice how the definition talks about changing position. This is the key to understanding of velocity. So if there's no overall change in position, there is no velocity. What else do you remember was based on the end position of an object? If you were thinking displacement, you are correct. So we use displacement to help calculate velocity. So for speed, we use distance to calculate speed. For velocity, we use displacement to calculate velocity. So having said that, we know that displacement is a vector quantity, so that means that velocity is also a vector quantity. So we have to look at the direction that the object has changed its position to. For example, if the object changed position to the right, it would have a rightward velocity. And if it changed position to the left, it would have a leftward velocity. So if we wanted to just look at an example, say the plane was traveling 300 kilometers per hour east, would be a velocity. So we have a direction, which is necessary when we're calculating velocity. So one note here, pay attention to this. If a person or an object is traveling to the right, it's considered the positive direction, and if it's traveling to the left, it's considered the negative direction. So if you hear something talking about rightward, right, if you hear someone talking about positive direction, that's usually talking about the rightward direction, or east, or up. And if you're talking about a negative direction, that's traveling to the left, to the west, or down. So let's look at how to calculate velocity. Just like we had a formula for speed, we also have a formula for velocity. So its average velocity is equal to displacement divided by time. So it can be written like this. And you might be thinking that V looks very similar to the one for speed, Miss Graves. You're right, they're both the letter V. The difference is that for velocity, it's a non-italicized bold letter, okay? So if that is too confusing for you, you are just like me, and it's much easier to write out velocity is equal to displacement divided by time. So that's what I like to do, it's easier for me. So if we look at an example here, it says a ball was displaced 60 meters east in 20 seconds. What was the average velocity? So for step one, you write out the equation that you're using. So velocity is equal to displacement divided by time. Step 2 is to fill in the information that you have. So we know that our displacement is 60 meters east, and it took 20 seconds for that to happen. So we have 60 meters east divided by 20 seconds. Step 3, we calculate through. So velocity is equal to 3 meters per second to the east. If we want to look at a second example, a person traveled 100 kilometers west of their starting point in 2 hours. So what was their average velocity? Again, we're writing out velocity is equal to displacement divided by time. Velocity is equal to, we look at our displacement of 100 kilometers per hour west, put that on top, and our starting point, and it took 2 hours, so we divide by 2 hours. So this is what our formula and our equation ends up looking like. So 100 divided by 2, velocity is equal to 50 kilometers per hour west. Make sure that you're including that direction, it's very important. So just like for speed, we can rearrange our formula so that we could be calculating for something different. So this is our velocity formula. If we needed to calculate for the displacement, if we were given the velocity and the time, we could calculate for displacement. And here, if we were given the displacement and the velocity, we can calculate for time. So if you want to remember how to rearrange formulas, just take a look back in your speed notes. I just wrote them out here for us because we already went through the steps of how to rearrange a formula. So again, take a look back at the speed notes if you want to just take a quick glance at how to rearrange formulas. So for example 3 here, it says your average velocity was 30 kilometers per hour right, and you were displaced 50 kilometers right. How long did it take? So we have to figure out what are we trying to solve for. How long did it take? That means we're solving for time, so we need our time formula from up here. We had a displacement of 50 kilometers to the right, so we fill that in. And then we had a velocity of 30 kilometers per hour right, so we fill that in as well. So out of all this, our kilometers cancel out, our direction cancels out, and we're left with 1.67 hours because that was our time used in our velocity. So we know that it was hours. So those are a couple examples of how to do velocity questions. If you have any questions about that, make sure that you're doing our practice problems here, and the key has been posted as well. Finish our practice problems before you take a look at the answer key. And if there's any questions, please let me know.